everyone who's looking at Bitcoin always goes away for a little bit, they pop back and like, oh my God, I can't believe Bitcoin's at whatever price. This asset moves incredibly violently upwards when it decides to go up. If you go back a couple of weeks, you remember I told everyone, I said the sideways summer is over. The boringness, the lulling you to sleep is over. We're going up in the next couple of weeks. I didn't know when, but here we are. The price is up 40-50% since then. And the reason is we had that halving all the way back in Q2 of this year. That halving created a supply shock. A supply shock took the number of Bitcoin that was coming into the market, cut it in half, and then you go sideways for the summer. Everyone kind of works it out. But now here we go. There's a lot of people in the market buying. ETFs have over 1 million Bitcoin. You've got MicroStrategy buying billions of dollars per week. You've got many others around the world who are saying, I need to get some of my share of the 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. So you have a supply shock, hit it with a demand shock, bam, let's go. 2020 all over again.
According to Pompliano, the current market cycle is far from over. Historical trends suggest that Bitcoin's price rallies tend to extend for 12 to 18 months post-halving. With approximately 9 months left in this cycle, he believes Bitcoin could reach a price range of $150,000 to $250,000, with $180,000 being a reasonable midpoint. However, he tempers this optimism with a dose of realism. While Bitcoin's percentage gains may seem staggering, they pale in comparison to its earlier cycles. For instance, a jump from $100,000 to $200,000 is just a 2x return, a far cry from the 10x or 100x gains seen in Bitcoin's early years. This diminishing percentage return is driving some investors to diversify into altcoins, which may offer higher short-term returns despite their increased risk.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
I could see Bitcoin going, 150-ish, somewhere in that range. I think that people are very excited right now. They see that there's still, from a timeline standpoint, a number of months, maybe 9 months, 10 months, 12 months left in this cycle. And so if that is true, then Bitcoin's going to go higher. And the question is just how much higher does it go? And so if I had to poll all my friends, I think that between 150 and 250 is the number that most people would come up with. 180 is somewhere in the middle there. But I also think what's really interesting is that the largest pools of capital are the ones who haven't bought yet. And so this thing can get more reflexive than it has been in the past, but the percentages aren't going to be as big. So if Bitcoin goes to $200,000, if I sat down with somebody and I said, Bitcoin's going to be worth $200,000, they'd be like, that's insane. Wow. I'm going to make, quote unquote, so much money. But if you actually look at it from a percentage basis, it's about 2x. It's going to double in price. And so what I think you're starting to see is a lot of investors who say, look, I've got Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. I'm going to hold my Bitcoin. But 2x, as crazy as it sounds, isn't nearly as attractive of a return as maybe I can get in some of these other altcoins. And so you're going to start seeing people push further and further out on the risk curve as they think Bitcoin's return becomes less and less desirable. Trump comes in, obviously people get more excited. It's not just a Bitcoin or crypto thing. It's a financial market thing. Everyone wants to invest. Donald Trump's got a magic wand. He's going to wave it. Asset prices are going to go up. I do think that the regulatory kind of relief that is on the way is not going to affect Bitcoin as much. Bitcoin's already kind of through the threshold. We have the ETFs. We've got people who are buying it, and kind of it's understood that this is not really caught up in that regulatory unclarity. But the altcoins are definitely benefiting from that. And so I think there's a lot of coins that previously were in the crosshairs of these regulators. As that regulatory relief shows up, then those coins will start to move upwards because people are saying, hey, there's no longer that kind of overhang. And then also, I don't think that people are giving enough credit to the fact that the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates and we have M2 money supply expanding. And so you basically have kind of the trifecta. You've got the supply shock from a halving. You have Donald Trump coming in with pro-Bitcoin and pro-crypto policies, and then you've got a central bank that is cooperating and is going to cut rates and print money. And so if you go back, knock, knock, if anyone remembers, in 2020, I kept yelling and screaming over and over and over again saying, this is rocket fuel for Bitcoin in the summer of 2020 and the spring of 2020, because we were going to get a halving, we were going to get interest rates down, and we were going to get printing of money. Trifecta. And so you can look at history to understand what is likely to occur. The hard part is predicting when it happens and how severe the move is. But obviously, if you had the supply shock that's now getting worked into the system, you have printing of money, you have interest rates coming down, you have Donald Trump coming in and saying, I'm going to protect this industry, I'm going to make sure that these assets are successful. What do you think is going to happen? It's not like Bitcoin's going to get cut in half. Instead, it is much more likely on a probability standpoint that the price of these assets goes up. Is there a percentage of Bitcoin that can be held by a publicly traded company that people begin to think is too much? I don't know. I can argue both sides. On one hand, you want a free market where anyone is available to buy as much Bitcoin as they possibly want. And regardless of how much Bitcoin you own, you get to use the network no differently than anyone else. You don't get extra control. You don't get extra voting. You don't get extra anything, right? So that would be an argument for it's a race. Whoever buys the most Bitcoin, good on them. Knock yourself out. On the other hand, there's an argument that if somebody owns too much Bitcoin, and let's say they own 5, 6, 7%, now all of a sudden they become a proxy for speaking for the industry.
Right.
And so regulators, governments, right, all that kind of stuff. Now all of a sudden they start to really put a lot of weight on words, actions, etc. I think that's a pretty hard argument to make, is that even though you don't have outsized control, there's loud voices today, not because of how much Bitcoin they own, just because of they were early or they've had, unique thoughts or whatever. I would even argue there's politicians who don't own Bitcoin, but they have become an important voice in the debate, whether they're pro or con. So it's kind of this weird dynamic where you probably can't own too much Bitcoin, but I think people will critique it anyways.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second thing is, the more that this works and MicroStrategy stock goes up, the more fast followers, the copycats will show up. And we already see people starting to do this around the world. You've got Summer Scientific, MetaPlanet, you've got DeFi Technologies, you've got companies like Hut 8, Marathon, et cetera, that are all doing this. And then you've got companies that are doing this for non-Bitcoin assets. So you've got Soul Strategies, which I'm involved with and a shareholder of in Canada. And I think you're going to start seeing more of these kind of show up and say, hey, look, we're going to be the MicroStrategy for name another asset. At the end of the day, if you don't want somebody to buy too much Bitcoin, go buy it yourself, right? Like it is available to anyone. It's been available to anyone since 2009. And so the beauty of the industry is for 15 years, anyone with an internet connection had equal access to go and try to buy this. MicroStrategy has just figured out a way to get more capital than everyone else that wants to go do this. And so really the innovation is on the capital side, less so than, we have some secret, deal with Satoshi that we can go buy Bitcoin and no one else can. It's anyone can go buy it. It's just who has the conviction and the ability to go big. MicroStrategy is really proving that, that there's benefits to being able to do that.
A key turning point in this narrative is the political and regulatory environment. With Donald Trump running on a pro-Bitcoin platform, Pompliano anticipates significant legislative momentum for the crypto industry. This shift could catalyze broader adoption and investment as government support reduces uncertainty for both retail and institutional investors. However, Pompliano remains pragmatic, noting that while pro-crypto policies are a boon, they must be coupled with market resilience and technological innovation to sustain long-term growth.
When the President of the United States runs on a campaign promise to be pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin, everyone else falls in line. And especially when you have such a sweeping win. A Republican won the popular vote. It is a mandate to go and implement your plan. Whether it works or not, we're going to find out. But there was a mandate from the American people to implement the plan. A key component of that plan is to be pro-Bitcoin and pro-crypto. And so now you have all this legislation that people have been trying to kind of work through the system, and they're going to go push it through. Another thing that people are now just starting to understand is there's not even necessarily legislation that has been a barrier in terms of let's get clear legislation and clear rules, but also there's a bunch of just nonsense that's been going on that people have been having to deal with. So for example, the Operation Choke Point 2.0.
Yeah, explain that.
Huge problem. Nick Carter has been all over this. He's the one who coined the term. He gets full credit for kind of being ahead of this. I can speak from our own personal experience, right? We have a number of businesses. I cannot tell you how much time and energy we have spent talking to various banks, not just one bank, many different banks, where they try to prevent us from opening bank accounts. They try to remove our bank accounts.
And
they
why?
try to kick us out of various banks, etc. I understand where the individual bankers are coming from. They work inside of a corporation. That corporation is trying to de-risk in a lot of scenarios. And so they say to themselves, okay, the regulators don't like this stuff. And if we go and we start banking a bunch of these companies, then the regulators are going to give us a hard time. They may fine us. They may, make our lives miserable, whatever. So instead of fighting the regulator, let's just not offer services to this type of business.
And this type of business being a business that has...
That's involved in crypto in some form or fashion,
Okay.
right? Now, we've learned over time how to kind of position the businesses, start the businesses, et cetera, where you can kind of be related to crypto, but also make sure that you're not being, stopped from opening a bank account. That's kind of like the nonsense. What is, I think, unconstitutional and gets kind of a step further is when you have a bank that receives federal funding that is actively debanking people. So not like, hey, we don't know if this business really fits, but they are specifically going after founders and they're saying, without any cause, without any reasoning, you're no longer welcome here. It begs the question, well, why are you no longer welcome here? What is the problem? And so I do think that a private company should be able to offer their services to whoever they want. But if you are a private company that accepts federal funding, or you accept some other form of kind of economic gain.
The Bitcoin market is entering a transformative phase, fueled by a confluence of supply dynamics, macroeconomic conditions, and regulatory changes. Anthony Pompliano's analysis provides a roadmap for understanding this momentous period, highlighting both the opportunities and challenges ahead. For investors and enthusiasts alike, the message is clear. Bitcoin's narrative as a scarce, decentralized asset is more relevant than ever. As institutions, policymakers, and retail investors converge on this market, the next chapters of Bitcoin's story promise to be as exhilarating as its past. Stay informed, stay curious, and remember, this is just the beginning.
Please like and subscribe my channel.